Okay, so some big changes are coming to FL Studio, including AI chord generation. I'm not exactly sure when they're going to be in full release, but today I have the beta version in front of me here, and I wanted to go over some of the new things they added and give my opinion. Once again, sorry for the lack of uploads. I'm a bit lazy. Anyway, if you enjoy this video or learn anything new, dropping a like would be amazing, and subscribing would be exceptional. Okay, so first let's go over the new plugins that they've added, and there's only 3 that I know of. The first one is a pretty quick one that we can just pretty much skip over instantly. This one is Kepler. I don't really know what it's supposed to be for. Like, I guess it's supposed to be like some sort of analog feeling synth in a digital environment. The best thing that I could make for it is just like a basic little super saw, I guess you could call it. Almost feels like a classic 70s super saw. And I think I'm just going to kind of just leave it there. There's not really much that interests me about Kepler. I think there's probably people who are going to do crazy cool stuff with it, but me personally, it just doesn't interest me all that much. What is more interesting to me, though, is Kepler Evo. This thing is a lot more interesting, and it can do some pretty cool stuff. I experimented with this for only about an hour, so I'm not super familiar with it, but from the hour that I spent with it, it's kind of cool. So you can do crazy little like 808s like this. You can make kicks with it. Little classic dubstep wonkers. You can make like really plucky, punchy stabs. Probably 100 other different kinds of things. Could probably make some acid basses as well, all sorts of crazy stuff. This just has all the fundamental things you really need to just do sound design that's effective but simple. And I have another one here that I've made a little bit of a chord, like a super saw out of almost. But not only that, you can use these more chord-like sounds and make cool little leads out of them. So like take this little resonance right here, turn that up, and then turn the frequency down. You can make cool little like saw stabs and stuff like that. I could make a whole video on Kepler Evo, and maybe I will, because it's kind of cool. I was sleeping on it at first, but then an hour into messing with it, I was like, whoa, this is actually a pretty versatile and feature-filled plugin, and I had a blast using it, I can't lie, and I want to make some other stuff with it. I made so many actually usable sounds with this, what I thought would be a terrible plugin, so it's kind of goated, and I might make a whole video on it and how to use it. I don't know what exactly I'll do yet, but I have Vital. Vital has all of these same things, and I'm more familiar with the interface, but the novelty to me kind of made me more interested in using it, and it was just fun to kind of learn how it worked and try and get good sounds out of it. The next plugin that they added is not a generator, it's an effect plugin, and it's called Spreader. This is one I'm very excited about because, I mean, just look at it. This is a default plugin. You can already tell just by the interface that this is about to be like stereo separator on crack. It's simple, but it does a really good job. So what I can do is I can turn the spread down, and now we just have the default sound. And if we turn the spread up, it stereo separates the sound. It gives you a nice little visual feedback of what's going on. It makes it sound very wide, and FL Studio definitely needed something like this as a stock plugin. It definitely has its uses, and I'm very excited that this is being added in. Now on to the thing that everybody is talking about, and I'm definitely a bit late to the party too, is the AI chord generation. Now, I have mixed feelings about this, I'll be 100% honest. On the one hand, I think it's really cool. I think it's great for inspiration. I think it's really nice to be able to include new technology into the DAW, but I also kind of hate it. Okay, so in order to use it, you're going to want to go to the MIDI roll itself. So go up to this tool icon or this arrow icon and go to tools. These are the exact same menu. Go to the second option, which is generate chord progression. Alternatively, you can just press Alt-P. Boom. We have the menu opened up, and now we're generating chord progressions. So when you first open this up, it's going to just generate you a random chord progression. And it's usually not all that great, but, you know, sometimes you can get lucky. So just press the spacebar, and you'll be able to preview that chord progression instantly. And then obviously press spacebar to stop whenever you want to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's something. It's a pretty generic chord progression, but we have a lot of parameters and things to play around with here. So the most obvious is the one at the very top here, conventional and adventurous. So if you go to conventional, it's just going to, you pretty much can assume what it's going to do. It's going to give you some very generic chord progressions, which aren't always bad, but it's going to be generic. So let's just generate and see what happens. And yeah, it gave me a 1-4 chord progression, probably one of the most basic chord progressions you can get, which I have no problem with a 4-1 or a 1-4 chord progression. I think they can be great. I mean, this isn't really generating me any inspiration. Not much better. Let's try again. Oh, look, the same chord 4 times. Let's generate again. Let's Again, like nothing wrong with this chord progression, it's just a little bit simple. Okay, now on the exact opposite end, let's put this all the way to adventurous and see what we get. Definitely not a chord progression I think I would ever write, but I think that's part of what's cool about it is it can kind of get you out of the box that you're in and in a way generate some inspiration. So I will give it that, but this chord progression for me is not it. But we are in luck because there's all sorts of other parameters that we can use to try and make a good chord progression. So the first thing that we have is just presets. Literally just pretty simple here. You just have default progressions that you can choose from. And then you have rhythms, which is kind of cool. And then we can, you know, pick between one of these rhythms. Again, me personally, I would probably, when I'm using this, most of the time just use the default block chords and then come up with the rhythm myself. But also me personally, I would just come up with the chord progression myself. But on days that I do and I don't really have any inspiration, this is a really cool tool to just generate something that I might not otherwise have. Then we have this little manual panel, which is kind of crazy. So like you can just type in a chord progression. So let's say I want like a 2 5 1 6. Boom, it gives me a 2 5 1 6. And let's hear it. I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess. I mean, me personally, I don't think that's going to be helping me out that much. It's a good start. I can't hate on it. And then down here, we have these knobs, which I'm not even going to pretend to understand what temperature means, but I think it means either more conventional as the lower temperature or less conventional as the higher temperature. And then this one right here is non-diatonic notes, which is how many notes it will generate out of key. This is another cool thing that it can do. You go up to this top right corner where this little lock is, you click those, and now these are locked in. These will not change when you decide to regenerate. So now when I press generate, only this chord regenerates. That was not very impressive, but you know, it is what it is. It's what can you expect? Another way to do that is if you only want to regenerate the one chord, is you go down to this bottom left corner and hit this little, I don't know, recycling symbol, and that'll just regenerate the one chord. It makes it feel like you have a lot more control over the output rather than just, hey, AI, generate me a chord progression. And then if it's not exactly what you want and you don't really know music theory, you're kind of just screwed. Although I'd recommend just learning music theory. And then there's this little thing right here, which is like substitutions or add chords. So like a sus4 chord or like an add 6 or something like that. And that's the probability that you'll get that, which is turned all the way up. So every single chord is going to be an add or a sus. But if we turn this probability all the way down, we get a lot less. But yeah, usually it's probably best to have it about halfway. It's really not all there right now, in my opinion. So down to the next tab, the advanced tab, I am not even going to begin to pretend that I know what this stuff does. I've played around with it a lot, and I still don't really know what it does. These two little buttons right here make a little bit of sense. This makes it to where the AI, at least supposedly, is encouraged to make the chord progression wrap around, which is on by default, which obviously it should be for like chord progressions like this. That's kind of the whole thing of a chord progression. And then this one right here, fixed seed, I don't know. I have not really found it very useful. It basically just makes it generate the same thing under the same parameters every time. So like I can spam generate now, and as long as I have the same parameters, it's not going to change. But if I change the parameters a little bit, I got a little bit of a difference. Hey, I got a good chord progression out of it. There's also this little guy right here that will give you different amounts of chords in the phrase. So you could do 8 chords, 16 chords, 20 chords, 32 chords. I don't know why you would want this many chords, but I mean, you could do it, you know? Like, it's a really cool tool, and it a lot of the times will give me a little bit of inspiration. It'll start on something really cool, and then it'll just sound really dissonant and bad on the last 2 chords or on the last chord or something. But then in my own head, I'll hear something that's like, oh, that could work, and I really like that, and it gives me inspiration. I don't know for sure how exactly I feel about it yet, but it's here to stay, and I'm not gonna sit here and fight technology and be an old man yelling at the clouds, because that's not helping anybody. So that's about it for the bigger features, although, I mean, AI chord generation and Kepler Evo and even Spreader are pretty big, huge changes. I think Spreader is a necessary improvement. I think Kepler Evo is a really cool default plugin, and I think the AI generation tool is cool in a way, but also I have qualms with it. I definitely have things that I think could be addressed. And I also have my moral dilemma of where is the line of being an artist. But let's go over a couple of the smaller features real quick before we go. The first thing is if you go up on the playlist and you go to edit and you go down here, you can turn off nudging clips with mouse wheel, which if you're a very experienced FL Studio user, you'll know the struggle of accidentally clicking shift and mouse wheel and barely nudging your clip off time and not knowing why things sound weird. So that's off by default now, and you can turn it on, but now you have the ability to turn that on and off, and that is a huge quality of life improvement, as small of a thing as it is to add. The next thing is another really simple but huge quality of life improvement. So let's say I have a track. This is not something that I run into too often because I'm a little bit of a classic FL Studio user. I don't organize. I don't have tracks that are for specific instruments or any of that kind of thing. But if you do, let's say this little FPC track, I try and delete this FPC instrument. Oh, it gives me an option to delete the associated data. And now it's all gone in one click. That is huge. And the last thing, nobody saw it coming. What you didn't know you needed has arrived. Random colors. That's right. That's right, random colors.
Okay, that's about it. See ya.